What is going on, guys? It is Digimon CCG coming to you with another discussion video. Today we're going to be talking about the ban list. Now, the ban list is likely to come right after Nationals, or at least announced maybe before Nationals, which is within just a few weeks. And I think it's a good time because right around this time last year, we actually got some ban list picks, such as Ice Wall and Savior Huckmon to 1. And I think it's probably going to be right around this time because I'm sure they don't want to hit decks that are going to be competing in Nationals. But I think that once Nationals are done, they are going to give us a list. And I'm going to go over a couple of my picks now. I probably have a few picks that probably are not popular, but I will talk about whether or not I think they should be hit or not. There are some here that honestly they're just discussion points, and they're not really picks for being on the ban list. So we'll talk about it, and we're going to get into it just now. And what I am using right now just for full use is digimoncard.dev, and everything I say here is my opinion. It's not fact, so you shouldn't make any kind of hasty decisions based on what I say in this video. So starting things off, we're going to talk about the big dog in the room, which is the Gurumon deck, Gurumon X, whatever you want to call it. These two cards here are probably the biggest problems in the deck, and I'm going to say that Gurumon is actually more of a problem than the Gurumon, because you need to have an enabler in order for you to have an OTK. And for me, I think Gurumon is more of an enabler card, and I'll talk about why now. So for Gurumon, it has an inherited effect of 1 attacking if the Digimon has Gurumon in its name, trigger draw 1. And you draw 1 from your deck every time you attack. This is not a once per turn effect. So what people usually do is they'll digivolve into this, and then they'll essentially get up to their Gurumon if they have it in hand, and then the next turn they promote out, and or they set up a little bit more and they have like 1 or 2 turns to pretty much OTK you, or at least get most of your security out of the way. And the effect for the Gurumon, the inherited, that gives you security +1, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, is something that is like, it is a bit of a problem, and it is the part of the reason why you can OTK in this deck, but mainly to get to 8 cards that quickly is a big part of it too. So think about this. You digivolve into Gurumon, you promote out, you have a Gurumon, so you attack once there's security, you draw 1 card. You then, and let's assume this is like turn 2 or maybe turn 3, so maybe you have 6 or 7 cards in hand. Now, if you have 6 cards or 7 cards in hand, that security +1 is not really in effect. It's not really a concern as of now. So what can I do? I promote out, attack with a Gurumon, draw 1. I'm at 7 cards in hand. I put the X antibody underneath, possibly, or digivolve into Gurumon X and attack again. That's 2. And since Gurumon suspends, that is now 3. And if at this point you've attacked and you have 3 cards in hand, you probably have around 8 cards, which means that security +1 is now in play, meaning you are hitting actually the 4th card as well. And of course, you have to attack again when you digivolve into the Metal Gurumon X or whatnot. And so you can clear practically the whole entire security, plus have a little bit of extra memory to maybe even go into a Blitz Omnimon if that was possible, if your opponent is giving you a lot of memory anyway. But the point is that with Gurumon, it kind of fastens you to that point. There are other cards, of course, that can help with the strategy, like a Davis or something that can add a card to hand, or something that lets you draw a little bit more. But Gurumon to me is the problem. And now what I would do for the ban here is probably hit it to 1. I think 1 is fine. I think that it doesn't get the card completely out of the game, but I do think it at least limits the deck, and you have to find another way around it. Additionally, we have the Gurumon here that can attack and unsuspend, and while that's not a problem, again, the ability to digivolve with X antibody cards is a bit of a problem. So when digivolving, you unsuspend it and you attack again, and as long as you have Gurumon, you can basically do the whole combo I just talked about. Now, honestly, I feel like both these cards are a problem, and I do feel like Gurumon is a more likely card to get hit. But if I were to hit the Gurumon, I'd probably put it to 2, just because you do have the OTK potential with this card, and at least you're going to have a semi-limit on this. So those are my picks for the Gurumon cards. Now, we're going to go down a little bit, and we're going to talk about these next two, Taiki and Magna Angemon. Now, obviously 2 different decks, so just we're going to focus on Taiki first. Now, Cross Hearts, unfortunately, and I don't play the deck, but I still feel it was unfortunate that week one, or like they only had 1 week where they could play the Cross 4, um, and at full power at 4 copies. And with Taiki, of course, you can put cards underneath your tamers and everything like that, and then you can suspend them to be able to use those cards. But with so much support coming out in BT11 and BT12 for Cross Hearts, I feel like this is still a card that is going to be a bit of a problem. You have the trio of tamers. I think that's what it's called, or I don't know what the actual name is, but you do have the same kind of effect that you can suspend and use cards underneath. You have Christopher, which you can also suspend, even though it's not Cross Hearts card. And I'm sure there is one I'm forgetting that you can use the same effect with. Point being is that Taiki is a card that I feel just enables you to have too much consistency. Running 4 of these and running 4 Trio of Tamers gives you extra memory and gives you just more consistency in the deck. So I do think for that reason, it probably should go to maybe like a semi-limit at very least to test the theory. And that's what I'm actually proposing to Bandai, is that maybe you can set some of these semi-limits. Semi-limits are a good way of testing whether a deck is too powerful or not, and seeing if it is a little bit less consistent or if it's about equal. It's the same thing you can make say right now with like Black or Greymon deck that basically is able to do a lot of crazy things and really control the board. And like just putting a card from to 2 just to test the theory, I think is not a bad idea. So just something to throw to you, Bandai, if you do watch this video. Then you have Magna Angemon. Now, I will say this. Magna Angemon, I wish there was more of a TK archetype. Like, you can just have a really, really good line of TK, like, Angemon cards. It is one of my favorites. But the big thing here is that this card is abusable in decks like Security Control. And I will say, as a player and someone who tries to make sure their skill is good against every single deck and know how to play against every single deck, you need to know how to play against Security Control. I don't think Security Control is a problem inherently. I do think that there's certain cards that may make the deck too abusable, though, such as Magna Angemon. Magna Angemon with Flame Hellscythe can be brought back multiple times and recover 1 multiple times. I think that having more destruction or using other cards that recover are going to be better options to do this with. And they have to think about better ways of utilizing it. So I do think that Magna Angemon should be maybe hit to 1 or 2 copies. 1 preferably, only because you have to kind of work harder to get it into your hand, draw more cards, whatever you need. You have to change your strategy. But it's honestly not a strong argument for this card to be hit, personally. I don't think it needs to be on the next ban list, but if we get more like support down the line that makes Security Control a bigger problem, then yeah, I definitely think this would be hit. Additionally, I think Mastermon players only run 1 copy of Magna Angemon, so it wouldn't necessarily hurt the Mastermon engine either. So again, I don't think it's a strong argument to ban this card, but it is somewhat of a consideration if you were to put cards on a ban list. Now, going into some problematic cards, one of these cards is a problem. The other one is just an annoyance. Can you guess which? 3, 2, 1. Well, personally, Death X, for me, is more of an annoyance than a problem. Death X, yes, it gets on the board, it can clear the board, it makes it harder for your opponent to really get set up a play. But honestly, I don't think this card needs to be hit. I think that there are very easy ways of removing this as a problem card, and honestly, the only deck that kind of abuses this is probably Security Control, maybe running 3. Death X usually, though, is run at 1 to 2 copies, depending on your build. Usually, if it's a deck that's black or purple, they'll maybe run 2 copies of this rather than 1, but I haven't really seen any builds that really abuse this. Yeah, again, it is a problem because you can on-play it, but again, if you have like a Psychmon in play, or something that stops your opponent from reducing play costs, easily this card cannot be played out. And purple right now has that, and I believe there are probably 1 or 2 other decks that have a card like that as well. I think the black has it too, if I'm not mistaken. But there are ways of dealing with this, so I'm not really going to say this is a problem. Especially Black or Greymon, by the way. You could just swing over this with Black or Greymon, or any War Greymon, honestly, deck. Alright, so now we're going to get to the problem card here, Cool Boy. Now, whenever I think of these tamers in a game, I always consider them to be like a long-term investment. Meaning like you're paying for, think like four is like a $4,000 investment, and it's what you're getting back. So every turn you are getting back $3,000 because you're setting your memory to like three. And then additionally, you get a bonus effect depending on what you get. Well, this card is a bang for your buck personally, and you can run four of these, by the way. So not only is it 2,000 to invest in, but not only that, but you get an what do you call it? A like an immediate bonus by getting either X antibody in its traits or an option with X antibody or both to your hand. And additionally, whenever you digivolve into the same level, which we have quite a few cards that do that, you can suspend this tamer to draw one and gain one memory. So again, it's very, very good investment. The problem is that it's too good of an investment, and it makes other decks that don't use Cool Boy or X antibody kind of hard to play against, or try to actually sorry hard to win. And yeah, you have decks like Cross Hearts that can easily do that, but stuff like Blue Flare and other decks that kind of want to see the light of day don't really have the ability to see meta play because Cool Boy and X Antibody support is just too good. Additionally, even like with the Black or Greymon here, Digivolve into the same level, gain two memory, draw two cards, get your pieces very quickly, are a bit of a problem, honestly. I do think that this is a problem card, and if I were to hit this, I would probably put it to one. I don't really think it needs to be hit more than that, but at least limiting it to one copy per deck, I think is very smart. We aren't gonna stop getting X antibody pretty much until the end of BT12. So I do, or I think it might be EX4. I can't remember, but I do think that Cool Boy has to be hit. Now I'm gonna start with just talking about the card on the left over here, Coolman, and then I'll talk about Hades Force. And Hades Force is not something I'm gonna say needs to be on the ban list, but I'm gonna talk about it now, right? I'm gonna talk about the Coolman. Now we do get a green option. I don't remember what it's called, but it basically has the ice wall effect that this card has as well. Your opponent can play it, and then suspend one of your every time one of your opponent's Digimon suspends, you gain I think one or two memory. Additionally, this is when one of your opponent's Digimon suspends, you gain additional memory. Green is already good at reducing costs and not having to pay the full cost to digivolve into, but giving it the additional ice wall kind of effects might be a bit of a problem. And I know that green needs some support. I know, but still using this card may make green too strong. I'm not sure. I mean, this is like a debate. If you feel like green should not be hit at all, definitely let me know in the comment section below. But I do think that this card, plus the new option card, is going to make this deck very, very powerful. They're going to have multiple ways of setting up boards that are much stronger than multiple other decks. Which means that basically Cross Hearts, which usually don't spend much time on the board anyway, and Grandis is going to be probably two of the best decks in the game. It might even get rid of decks like the Black or Greymon deck. So, and I don't mind about that. I understand there are problem cards, which I'll talk about in a second, but I do think that this is a card that maybe needs to be semi-limited at the very least. I feel like a lot of my choices are semi-limits, like Akuamon, I think should be semi-limited. I think Taiki should be semi-limited. I think Where Gurumon should be semi-limited. And it does just make the deck like a little bit better, more like, it doesn't overpower the deck. But now we're going to talk about some future things. Now, problem cards here, like the design of the card, I think are somewhat problems and overkill with a deck, if you will. Hades Force here basically says most of the time you're going to have an X antibody option in your hand, so you'll be able to play this card for 5. So very easy to keep it your turn with this deck. Additionally, yes, you can kill basically your opponent's entire board with this card, and like it just demolishes it. It destroys everything. I don't know who decided to make this deck as powerful as it is, but this is a card that I can see going on the ban list later. Now, I think there's going to be a time right now where Hades Force is not going to be hit. I think it's going to be maybe for a foreseeable future basically a card that's going to be used, but I do think it might have one of those not right now, but later, this card will be hit kind of bans. So like the way we got Savior Huckmon. Now, what I would say with Hades Force is probably not right now, but maybe in 2 months, 3 months time when we get Beelzemon and BT12. Um, I think that will be the time when Hades gets hit. But I would probably even say putting it to one copy or two copies is probably about what I'd expect. Definitely two is what most people play, so I feel like they would probably put it to one. If it truly is a problem, I just do think that, like, even I'm a Blackrock Greymon player, and I'm the one who's saying this. I think it is a problem. So the last card we're going to talk about is Greymon X Antibody. Now, when you compare all the different Greymon cards, I do think this is probably the biggest problem. And it's mainly because it allows you to easily get to your boss monster, basically from a champion level, which sometimes shouldn't happen. Usually, your opponent, if you don't have anything set up, will put you to 2 memory. Being able to go into your ultimate Digimon for 2, and then attack, and while attacking, use an X antibody effect to digivolve it into your boss monster, is really not supposed to be happening with that little memory, especially with red and black colors. Don't get me wrong, I do think that red and black needs a support card like this, but I think that it needs to go down to maybe something like a semi limit so you don't see this as often. But what will happen if this card gets semi limited? Well, people are going to reframe from using this card, only using the 2, and using the other 2, the one that has the same level effect instead. It does have the same effect to prevent digivolution, but it does not have that ability to reduce the play cost. So it could be something that people decide to play instead of this card. And I do think that does hit the deck. Now, will this get hit now? No, but I think it could get hit in the future. I do think that if they were to probably hit it, it'd probably be about the same time that Hades Force would get hit if they do choose to go that route. And basically both sides of this coin, I could see these both this going to 2 and this going to 1. I would really be disappointed, honestly, if Bandai were to look at this card and say, yeah, let's hit it to 1. This is a big problem. No, make it a red and black decks brick a lot. So finding this card is just going to be twice as hard, but it's not impossible. You draw it, you're good. You put it in your stack, you're fine. It'll gain the protection, but at least it's a little bit harder to find. But those are my picks for the ban list. What do you guys think? Do you agree with me? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching. Have a good one.